Great. Well, it looks like we've got a lot of folks here on the call, and I'm sure we'll have some more people joining us as we go. But I want to welcome you to a very exciting afternoon. My name is Maya Swope. I'm the outreach coordinator here at Friends of the Boundary Waters Wilderness. For anyone that hasn't heard, we just received news earlier this morning that the Bureau of Land Management is going to be canceling some of the Twin Metals leases, which is huge news. This is something that we've been working really hard for and waiting for. So we'll dive in a little bit more to what that means and what that celebration will look like in a second here. If anyone wants to put in the chat, how you're feeling about that announcement or kind of what thoughts and emotions are coming up for you because of that exciting news, I would love to share that joy with everybody. So joining me today, I have Chris Knopp, who's our executive director, and Scott Beauchamp, who is our policy director, both kind of experts in some of the things that we're working on and some of these decisions that are upcoming. So Chris, maybe I'll turn it over to you to just talk a little bit more kind of about the decision today. And I guess, sorry, before I do that, I'll just remind folks, we do have a Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. So if you have questions throughout, you can put those in there and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. And feel free to send messages in the chat as well. So we're very excited that you're all joining us today. It's an exciting day. Chris, I will give you the floor now.
Great. Well, thank you, Maya, and thank you, everyone. This is truly a great day. I was getting my leases or my permits. I had my guidebook there, and I was on the recreation.gov website getting my permits for this summer here, and a call came in that I did not take because I was still online getting my permits, and so it was. There's a real symmetry to this. So on the day of the first day for getting permits for permit season, that the mineral leases were canceled. So this is a day for permits to enjoy and love the wilderness, and a day for canceling mineral leases that threaten the clean water and enjoyment and human health. So this is absolutely a bombshell decision. The Biden administration has a considered analysis of this that I have in my hands here, and I'm just reading. And so to kind of bring this full circle here, so people understand, is that these were zombie leases. So these leases had expired. So Twin Metals is owned by Antofagasta, a Chilean conglomerate that has a terrible track record across the globe. And their mineral leases were canceled before the Trump administration came along. And so rather their leases had ended. They had expired. Their leases ran to a period of time and then they expired. But like a zombie brought back to life, that's the Twin Metals, the Trump administration reinstated those Twin Metal leases and then renewed them into the future. And on flimsy grounds that we've been challenging in court for the last 2 years here, and so there's a couple things going on here, but the big thing is that this puts a real dagger into the heart of Twin Metals here, and it's a real victory for everyone who loves clean water, everyone who drinks straight out of the Boundary Waters, everyone who loves to paddle, people who are snowshoeing and winter camping now that I'll be doing in a couple weeks. And it's a victory for all of us, and it's a collective victory. So this is not any one person or any one organization. This is a collective organization, and really for all of you that are on the line, it's really, we're grateful to all of you. We're grateful to our predecessors, the shoulders on which we stand. So this is a collective victory for all of us, and for the communities that are gateways to the Boundary Waters. This really protects those that are outfitters and their livelihoods that depend on the Boundary Waters. And this is a great victory here. So there's a lot more to do. And the other part of this sort of two halves of this, it has to do with the comment period. And so that's been going on and just concluded last week here. And so this is the federal comment period on the proposal to withdraw future mineral leases on lands adjacent to the boundary waters. So I am going to turn this over now to my colleague, Scott Beauchamp, our policy director, to talk about that other aspect of what's going on here and what that means for you as well. So again, thank you and congratulations to all of you that love the boundary waters. I will turn it over to Scott. Scott, take it away.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think somebody mentioned that you can see the smiles on our faces, and I honestly, all the messages in the chat are getting me a little bit emotional. So I appreciate everybody's support. As Chris said, this is no one group, no one individual that did this. It was everybody. It was all of us coming together, and we're grateful for your work on that. I do see a number of questions about twin metals, and we'll get to those just in a moment. So as Chris mentioned, there was kind of two pieces to the twin metals question. If you remember in 2015, the Twin Metals Company had bought leases from a former mining company that had them for a long time in Minnesota. Those leases expired, as Chris mentioned, were up for renewal. Those leases were canceled, as Chris mentioned, by the Obama administration, reversed by the Trump administration, and now canceled again by the Biden administration, which we're grateful for. The other part of that is, so not only is there the question of the leases, there's also the question of the land in the Rainy River watershed in general. So if people don't know, the Rainy River watershed is the watershed that flows into the western portion of the boundary waters and is very critical because the proposed mining projects will be upstream of the boundary waters, meaning they would flow directly, any waste would flow directly into the boundary waters. So even if there wasn't mineral leases, we still don't want that land to be able to be mined by future copper sulfide mining companies. So what the federal Biden administration is able to do is something called a mineral withdrawal, which essentially removes all the federal land in the Rainy River watershed from being able to be mined at all. So that would essentially means there can be no new leases. And that is the process that the Biden administration began in October. We strongly supported this. And in fact, we were very grateful. And I think a few of them are on the call today. We have an amazing team of scientists that helped us prepare comments and really say, exactly why this type of mining is wrong for this type of place. That comment period ended on January 19th. And there was, hundreds of thousands of comments. So we're grateful for everybody on this call and everybody across the country that submitted comments. So the second part of this process now will be, not only will we hopefully continue to see, now we see the Twin Metals leases canceled, we will now, after this mineral withdrawal is completed, hopefully see the entire Rainy River watershed being removed from the land that's able to be mined for up to 20 years, which is the maximum amount of time that the Biden administration can remove that land. So that was ongoing already. We were, we didn't, it's kind of fortuitous timing that we had this webinar already today because we did not know about this news. And obviously a number of people have put other questions about the PolyMet news that just came out yesterday, and we'll get to that in a moment. But overall, yeah, it just, the momentum is I don't even know if it's building anymore. It's been built and it's spilled over, and we're really grateful for everybody. So that's kind of where things are. The last thing I would say is, this isn't a done deal yet. We still need everybody's advocacy. We still need everybody's help. This is something that should just show us that we can do it. The current administration does follow the science, and we're hopefully going to see more decisions like this in the future. So I'll turn it back over to Chris. I know there's some questions in the chat in the Q&A about this Twin Metals portion specifically.
Great, thanks so much, Scott. And one of the questions here is, is there anything that can be done to kind of reverse this? If there's another Trump administration, could this be undone? And the short answer is that there is that threat out there. And so there's another thanks that's owed out here, and that's to Congresswoman Betty McCollum, who has legislation that would permanently protect the boundary waters. And so really, having that legislative protection is really important, and that discussing it at the state level as well, in a moment with respect to PolyMet as well, just shows that these different tools of advocacy all have their role. So the litigation that we've been engaging in and other things goes out to the firm of Robbins Kaplan that's been representing us in our efforts to fight fight the Twin Metals mine. So thank you to everyone at Robbins Kaplan, Steve Safransky, who's now leading that effort, and all the other attorneys there that have been helping as well, literally dedicating thousands of hours to their time to this effort here. And so this is a great victory here. But as Vice President Mondale once said, that all victories for environmentalists are temporary and all defeats are permanent. So this is a victory that we cannot rest on our laurels here. We cannot sleep on this. That we need to continually be vigilant to push for the expanded mineral withdrawal that the Biden administration is doing, but also to support legislative solutions that really enshrine that protection. So at the federal level, we have the effort led by Congresswoman Betty McCollum of St. Paul, Minnesota here for the Boundary Waters Permanent Protection Act. So we need to get that passed at the federal level so that a future administration couldn't find some flimsy ground and reverse this protection for the boundary waters. So that I saw that question in here from people. There's another part of this that I want to really emphasize, that how the work continues for us and other people who love the boundary waters, is to work with the gateway communities up there, that we realize that we all have a shared future, everyone in Minnesota and in this country, and the communities that are part of the Arrowhead. We want to have shared prosperity and want those communities to thrive. So from Ely to Grand Marais to Virginia and along the North Shore, these communities we want to thrive. So we want to work to expand broadband internet service, diversify the economy, and really support a Marshall Plan for the Arrowhead, so that we have real investment in our communities for the future, and in the local schools as well. So we have Senator Jen McEwen of Duluth, State Senator Jen McEwen. Thank you so much for being part of this afternoon. We are very, very grateful to have you, and we will be joined shortly with State Representative Kelly Morrison, and that'll talk about efforts at the state level legislatively. And so one of the issues that we had planned to talk about, and we'll talk about now, that we've been really concerned because there are two mines and one threat to the wilderness. The Twin Metals mine that threatens Lake Superior, that is owned by Antofagasta, a big Chilean conglomerate, and then the other mine is Polymet, that's owned by Glencore, a Swiss international conglomerate that has a terrible track record of human rights and environmental violations across the globe here. And so there was a decision this week by the Minnesota Court of Appeals that gave us a victory. So it is a huge victory, but there are some problems with it as well. So the victory is that we appealed Polymet's wastewater pollution permit, and because of the irregularities and the weaknesses of the process that we have at the state level here. We previously had won a victory with their colleagues at the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy, the Center for Biological Diversity, the Fond du Lac Band, and Water Legacy, among other organizations that took away Polymet's permit to mine. But there was so Polymet still can't put a shovel in the ground, and this victory earlier this week took away the wastewater permit as well. But this decision had some troubling findings in here, and one of those findings is the behavior of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. And the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency suppressed the comments of a federal EPA scientist that there were violations of the Clean Water Act and the draft permit. And the Minnesota Court of Appeals recognized those the problems with it, but said that there were that those were not irregular procedures because there were no regular procedures at the state level. And so what this shows is that there's behavior by our state agency that's really not protective of the environment. And there's a real problem with the moral compass of the leadership at the Pollution Control Agency, and that the hardworking career people that are dedicated to protecting the environment at the Pollution Control Agency are really not being listened to. And so what this means is that we need legislative solutions as well as legal solutions as well. And so a victory this week in defeating the Polymet's wastewater permit, but there were troubling things that went on, and so we need legislative protection. And so I'm going to pass this back to Scott now to kind of tee up the legislative discussion right now of that part of our protecting the wilderness. Again, there are two mines in one thread, Twin Metals and Polymet, and we need to defeat both. So Scott, take it away from here.
So, Chris, I hate to audible on you on live TV here, but since we are covering a number of topics, maybe we should answer we'll go question by question. We can answer the Polymet and Twin Metals questions because I'm sure there'll be separate legislative questions in a moment.
Okay, let's see. Why don't you tee these up? I'm trying to bounce into the questions.
So I'll go in backwards order since we were talking about Polymet. So Robert asks, if not, he said, can you explain the 6 quote unquote, and this is for people who don't know, this is from Polymet's spin here that he's referencing, the 6 of the 7 issues that we did not win.
Okay, great. So this is a really important point there. So we had a number of challenges to the wastewater permit, and we only need to win on one in order to defeat the wastewater permit. So we did win on one, and so here's one of the dirty little secrets of Polymet here. So what they were basically saying is that it's okay for us to pollute groundwater because that's not surface water. And a couple years ago, 2 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court said, look, if it can be shown that it's a reasonable potential for that groundwater to pollute the surface water, then you are violating the Clean Water Act. And so right now, the victory we have is that the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency has to go back and determine whether that groundwater, that pollution they're going to put in the groundwater, is going to flow into the surface water of the St. Louis River and into Lake Superior. And again, the pollution from this lasts not 1 year or 2 years or the 20-year life of the mine, but for hundreds of years. And so that is what the Pollution Control Agency really has to look at, is whether that groundwater would continue to migrate into the surface water. And we hope that the Pollution Control Agency will do its job and make that analysis. Now, one of the grounds on which we lost is that, so as I was referring to, there were these procedures where we said, look, the Pollution Control Agency talked to EPA and said, EPA scientists, you have these 24, 25 written in a draft letter violations of the Clean Water Act. Don't send them to us. And what we said is that, look, if we would have gotten that letter during the public comment period, it would have substantiated our argument that the Clean Water Act was being violated. What the Minnesota Court of Appeals said was that our rights were not substantially violated by the fact that the leadership at the Pollution Control Agency suppressed those comments and also destroyed emails related to that. And so that was, we've lost on that ground. That was, we said that's a real problem to destroy those emails and to force the EPA scientists not to send that letter. So that's a grounds that we're looking at to appeal. For example, the Polymet wastewater pollution permit. The court also gave great deference to the Pollution Control Agency. And on a number of factual findings, and one of those was that essentially it was kind of a release and catch technology that Polymet intends to use. So Polymet intends to release pollution into the groundwater and try to catch it, and we provided documentation that release and catch method is not going to work. And the court said, we're going to still side with the Pollution Control Agency on that. So those are two examples of issues that we're looking at to appeal to the Minnesota Supreme Court. So.
Absolutely. And I would just caution everybody, you know, when you hear stuff like that, you know, PolyMet is really known for its spin, and that's putting it kindly. And so, you know, we have a joke in the office that, you know, if the Vikings could count wins like they count wins, they, you know, Vikings would win the Super Bowl every year, right? So that's kind of what's going on there. So Chris, just to return briefly to the question of our big victory on twin metals. There's two questions here that I'll let you answer. One, what if anything could twin metals do? Like, can they sue, and what are their options, and what would the timeline for that be? And then the second question is, what role did or does Secretary Haaland have to play in this process?
Great, and I'm still trying to read the opinion. So as we talk here, but so how the process works is that the solicitor's office at the Department of Interior issues a legal opinion, an analysis of what can and cannot be done, and if things have been done improperly, how to undo those. And so the solicitor over the past year has been analyzing what happened by the Trump administration, and on the basis of identifying the flaws in what the Trump administration did, release this legal opinion. And so, again, it's important to understand the chronology that previously these leases had expired. So they had expired, and then they were reinstated. And then the second part of it is that, okay, these dead leases were brought back to life, and then they were renewed into the future. And so the Trump administration undid all the legal and scientific work that had been done previously by the Obama administration to provide a factual and scientific basis for not reinstating those expired mineral leases. And so so the question is, what can be done here by Twin Metals? They could try to provide a basis for challenging this it's called an M opinion, M as in Mary, an M opinion. This M opinion here, they could try to challenge that, and they would try to challenge that in federal court. I mean, for buy-in here, what I would hope is that the international conglomerate in Chile would understand that this is not a place where they're going to be successful, and it would be my hope that they would recognize that the people of Minnesota, that the people of the United States, that our government does not want them to come in, control our resources, and pollute our most important resource, our clean water. So it'd be my hope that Twin Metals would get the message and would not pursue this. And so that would be my hope. But that is sort of the basis for the approach that I hope Twin Metals takes.
Absolutely. And one key difference I would point out to people, and I think some people have already noted this in the chat, is that when Obama made this decision, it was essentially at the end of his term. It was in December of 2016, and so this decision gives the Biden administration a few years to hopefully lock this in, finish the mineral withdrawal study that we commented on, enact that mineral withdrawal for up to 20 years, and really lock this decision in before, if there was to be an administration change in 4 years, or, at the end of the 4 years. So that is definitely an advantage that we have. And I also see a quick question that a couple more questions. Chris, what % of Twin Metals is owned by the Chilean company Antofagasta? I believe it's all of it.
All of it, yeah. All of it's owned by Antofagasta, and so this is really a situation where you have foreign interests that would be taking over American resources, and so one of the problems here with this is that this is not American resources for Americans. This is American resources for a foreign corporation whose interests really don't align with the people of Minnesota and the health of our citizens. And so that is a really important point, that we are Minnesotans, we're Americans, and that we are protecting our rights and our resources. Again, our most important resource, our clean water. And we reject the argument that Antofagasta and Glencore have put out that we need to destroy the environment in order to save it. And so the whole argument that the green economy needs the boundary waters in Lake Superior to be destroyed in order to save the environment is ridiculous. And Antofagasta has been promoting that. Glencore has been promoting that false argument.
Yes, absolutely. And if you're interested in learning more about that topic, I would encourage you to go to our webinars page, where we've given webinars on the availability of copper and availability of metals recycling, and a number of things like that. And so I guess maybe the last question before we switch over to our legislative strategy. I can add my thoughts too, Chris, but Susan asked, what role did the overwhelming support to prevent mining near the boundary waters during this previous comment period have on this decision?
I have two thoughts on that. I mean, the Biden administration was giving strong signals that it would really look at the science and legal basis. And so they were making a scientific and legal determination that was independent of a political decision here. So this is a legal and scientific decision here. Saying that, there's the other process that's going on right now with respect to the mineral withdrawal, and the mineral withdrawal that Scott so well just talked about here. That is both a scientific approach, but that's also a political decision as well, that taking into account the overall attitudes of local citizens, of Minnesota residents and American citizens. For sure, we'd be, perhaps not totally candid to say that there's not a political calculus in a regulatory decision like that. But this was a decision that was really correcting the legal machinations that the Trump administration was so well known for in this area and others in trying to destroy the environment. And so this was a legal and scientific decision, and the mineral withdrawal obviously takes in a broader considerations that would take in, including what the people of Minnesota and the United States feel about it as well.
Yeah, and I would just say, the overwhelming support that we saw from citizens really does make a difference, right? That is part of the process. That is that is a key part of the scientific decision that we went into making that. And also I would say that, we saw during the mineral withdrawal comment, live comment period sessions, there was more than 2 to 1 in favor of protecting the boundary waters. And almost every single person that spoke against the mineral withdrawal was either some sort of industry representative and or Twin Metals employee. And if you take out, we'd happily take out my comment and Maya's comment and in exchange for all those industry people, and you would overwhelmingly see support for this decision. So absolutely, yep. And so we really appreciate that. So we appreciate everybody's comments, and we really strongly feel this was a scientifically backed process, and we're really excited about it. Now, I do want to get over to the legislative side of things. And so, as Chris mentioned, this isn't the end all be all. We really need to enshrine some of these protections in our law. And so that's why we're lucky enough to have Senator Jen McEwen with us. And I appreciate you kind of waiting while we went over this breaking news. But really, I'd like to start, Jen, by maybe just you could tell us a little bit about how you came to this issue and your perspective on why it's so important, particularly now with the polymet mine.
Yeah, thank you very much, Scott. And it's great to be joining everybody today. Thanks very much for having me. And I'm learning a lot listening to this discussion as well. There's always just so much nuance and detail in some of our efforts, and so this is really helpful. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I came to this because I'm a Duluthian. I grew up in Duluth. My family's from Duluth. My life has been, most of my life has been lived in Duluth, along Lake Superior. And after I was away for a little while and then moved back as an adult and with my spouse, and we were starting a family and living in Duluth for the long term, settling in, we learned about this copper sulfide mining threat and started learning more about it, started talking to our neighbors, organizing with people in Duluth around it, and found out pretty quickly that the people that were alarmed by these proposals and organizing were really smart people who really knew what they were talking about. There were scientists in our community, professors, teachers, people who've studied these things and who do the work, reading up and learning what they need to learn. And we're saying this is really dangerous for our community. And yeah, over the course of a few years, we really started getting involved with our neighbors who are organizing around this issue in particular. And then we sort of faced a wall in terms of our politics in the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, because as we know, there are certain elements within the Democratic Farmer Labor Party that really have rolled out the red carpet for this type of mining. And so that was also very troubling. And we did some political organizing in Duluth to try to change that dynamic. And that has ultimately resulted in some big changes, including me being able to be at the Minnesota State Senate representing my community in Duluth. And I'm also an attorney. And so one thing that I had heard in your discussion earlier that I wanted to bring up for people as well, that I was reminded of in some discussions just a few days ago, is that it's important for people to remember that when the courts are looking at these permits and they're making decisions about whether the bare minimum was followed under the law. So anytime we have a mixed decision like this, where we have a big win, and then we also have some losses that are problematic, remember that those losses are because a court looked at it and decided, well, they met the basic bare minimum. and I say that because it's important for people to understand that there's a difference often in the law between what are the basic bare minimum requirements that we require under our law right now, and what is right? So when we're talking about the way that we should move forward, obviously we want to have a higher bar than the bare minimum. And so while our legal strategies are key and they're very important, we've had some big wins and those permits are tied up right now, and that's really good. We also want to stay grounded in just the ethic and the morality of what we're talking about when we're looking at these mines. Anyway, that's a really, really long answer about how I got into this. Yeah, a lot of different factors.
No, it was a perfect answer, and we really appreciate it. And we appreciate having legislators like you. And really that kind of leads us perfectly into what are the solutions, right? What can we do? What are those laws? And the first one that we want to talk about is one that you can maybe see on the background of Maya's screen there, called Prove It First. And so Prove It First is a law that would require independent scientific proof that this type of mining could be done safely before going forward in Minnesota. We really feel like this should be the baseline measurement that every mine has to meet before they can even enter the environmental process. And so for those who don't know, this was a law in Wisconsin for 20 years. And what it said specifically was, you must show us an example of one mine that operated for 10 years without polluting, one copper sulfide mine without polluting, and was closed for 10 years without polluting. And that's never been done before. We don't believe that can be done. We don't believe it can be done safely. We think the science backs that up, and we want them to have to prove it. If they think it can be done, let's put it to the scientists and let's prove it. And the fact, in my opinion, the fact that they fight so hard against this really tells you all you need to know. But thankfully, Jen McEwen is our lead author in the Senate. And Senator McEwen, can you tell us a little bit more about Prove It First? And, maybe, friends didn't invent Prove It First. We didn't come up with this idea, right? We're really just jumping on, trying to join a great coalition of groups. And, I know some of the work that you did was, instrumental in that, and some of the groups you work with. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I came into the Senate just a year ago, a whole coalition of groups, really out of the political work that we were doing in Duluth, other groups like Friends, like the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy, groups working statewide on these issues, all thinking about like what is a good strategy to move forward legislatively. And so just as Scott said so well, looking at that Wisconsin law, we thought that that is a pretty good kind of grounding start to really make this big push to say, we've heard all these claims, these wild claims that are really, we haven't seen good evidence for, but about how this is going to be fine. This is going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And of course, we live downstream, and it's our water, and it's our economy, and it's everything. It's our entire community. So we want to see the proof. We've been saying that actually in Duluth for a long time. Show us. If you actually think that you could do this safely, let's actually air this out and talk about it. And it speaks to one of the things in Duluth that we had asked for was a comprehensive contested case hearing where we would actually hear the evidence for and against, in a neutral forum where we could really have people also cross-examined and challenged on what they were presenting and really just flesh out the facts so that our community could really know if we're making some sort of comparison of benefit and cost, what are all of the costs? We hear all about the claimed benefits from Glencore and Polymet, but we really don't have a very comprehensive fleshing out of the cost to our community. And so this legislation really goes to that. It just says, it's very simple. It does exactly what it says. If you're making this claim to our communities and coming in here and wanting to extract these minerals and profit in this way, show us, prove it to us that this could be done safely. And we know that it hasn't. It has never been done safely anywhere. Much less in a water-rich environment like we have in northeastern Minnesota, and basically all water, right? So it is sort of, I love the simplicity of it. I love how it really cuts to one of the core issues around the claims that sort of circle around a proposal like this, and just ask them to prove it first.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to Senator McEwen.
Sierra Club too. Yeah, someone just wrote Sierra Club.
Yes, and that's actually exactly what I was just going to say. Yeah. Yeah. We're very fortunate. Like I said, we didn't come up with this idea. It was a law in Wisconsin for 20 years. During that time, no copper mines were permitted, and they had to repeal the law by some people's favorite governor, Scott Walker, to make sure that they could try to pass a mine, right? Unfortunately, the DFL Environmental Caucus, Sierra Club, MCEA, Water Legacy, we work very closely with all those groups, and they all have been pushing this for years, and we're happy to just join that coalition. And so, if you have an organization or anything like that, that wants to be a part of it, please let us know. That we also, I should mention, have Prove It First lawn signs, T-shirts, and stickers. So if you want any of those things, please, Maya is at our office today, or we'll be. Chris has a T-shirt there that you can see, and fortunately, again, we do have 65 legislators supporting this. I know a few are on the call today. I want to shout them out: Senator Steve Kwasinski, Senator Jim Carlson, and Representative Jim Dabney, who is our lead author of Prove It First in the House. We really, really appreciate all of them. And if I'm missing anyone else, I apologize, because like I said, we are fortunate to have such great support. Unfortunately, I will just address this now. We have yet to receive any bipartisan support. We have been trying, and we would love to see it. We think this should certainly be the policy of both, all political parties and the state. And so if anybody knows of any Republican legislators that might be interested in supporting, please let us know. We'd be happy to work with them. Absolutely. And then I guess the final thing I'll say is that we were unable, unfortunately, to get a hearing on this bill in the Senate, which is, Republican controlled. And unfortunately, we were also unable to get a hearing in the House, which is DFL controlled. So I would say, everybody, please caucus, go to your caucuses, tell them that you want, if either party, tell them you want to support Prove It First being added to the Prove It First resolution. Introduce a Prove It First resolution to add it to the party platforms. And we will be having trainings on this, and Maya will put more information in the chat. And then I'd also say, contact your legislator. I think leadership thinks that this is a issue that really splits its voters, when if you look at polling, it doesn't. Minnesotans across party, frankly, want to protect clean water, which really shouldn't be a surprise. So we just need to show everybody that all our elected officials how important this is. And frankly, because of people like yourselves and because of Citizen Action, that's the only reason we've been able to get as far as we have. So thank you so much for everybody. Keep up the great work there, and again, we'll really be trying to push that forward in the next thing. So another question that is kind of coming up that I think would be a good one to address, another piece of legislation that we have. A lot of people are mentioning kind of questions with MPCA, with MNDNR, problems with the permitting process and things like that. Obviously, Chris has gone over this a little bit. Senator McEwen, another bill that you have would well, I won't spoil it, but would do some things, would shift some responsibilities around in that area. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
The new one?
The bill that would shift DNR responsibility. I believe it got.
Yeah, we do have a bill that would separate out the responsibility that the DNR has for, there's an inherent conflict of interest that the DNR deals with right now. And then I think we see play out in real ways where they're supposed to sort of steward forward development and promotion of development projects, and then while also at the same time looking out for the interests of the people of Minnesota. And I think that does sort of stem from an old view of what we're doing here in our in community, right? It has sort of a tinge of a manifest destiny colonialist kind of attitude where we're saying, yep, we got to develop all these natural resources, and as long as we don't, we're going to take a look at the environmental impact on the community, but we're going forward with the development. It has that kind of feel to it. And it's just very important to make sure that people are clear on what their responsibilities are so they don't have that conflict of interest where they're trying to promote development of projects like this while at the same time trying to protect people. Especially because when those interests come into conflict, then something's got to give. Right. And oftentimes in our political system, unfortunately, what gives is what has the most power, the most money, the most influence over elected officials. So yeah, we have a bill that would separate out those responsibilities and make sure that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think
it's kind of a multi-effort strategy, right?
Absolutely, all of the above.
Scott, kind of building on something that Jen McEwen said and something that Ju said, and bringing it back to what the Biden administration just did today is, it does take political courage for what the Biden administration did. And, let's be really clear that even though this is a scientific and legally based decision, that it does take real courage to do what the Biden administration did to stand up for what's right. And kind of tied into what's going on here right now in Minnesota with PolyMet is that the Governor Walz could also show the same sort of political courage and put a pause on PolyMet and just say, let's take a look at this flawed permitting process that has allowed a very damaged project like PolyMet to go forward. And so, we encourage Governor Walz and his administration to do what does take real courage, to do the right thing. And so we encourage Governor Walz to follow the examples set by the Biden administration today, and to really look at science, look at the legal basis, and look at a process that is not protective of human health and the environment, and do the right thing, and put a pause on PolyMet. So that there's sort of a real symmetry here with the executive branch of the state level and the executive branch of the federal level. So maybe, Senator McEwen and Scott, if you want to respond to that.
I would just say that's a great point, Chris.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in today's world, just because something is, scientifically correct and legally correct, that doesn't necessarily mean it's what will take place, and so, obviously we're grateful for the Biden administration for, following legal precedent, following the science. And yeah, we absolutely think that any administration that claims to be a science-based administration really should be considering this stuff and, make those decisions that are the right ones, even if you have pressure not to do so. So, I think that's absolutely correct. As the next bill that maybe we can touch on, Senator McEwen, this is a bill that has yet to be introduced, but we will be introducing it at this upcoming legislative session, and that is something called a bad actor bill. Now, a bad actor bill gets right to the heart of something that Chris was mentioning earlier. The reason we talk about foreign entities is not because we have any problem with foreign companies, not at all. It's just simply that when you look at these specific mining conglomerates that have operated around the world, Antofagasta that owns Twin Metals and Glencore that owns Polymet, they've shown disregard for the environment all around the world. And that's all we mean when we say that, is that why would they regard, our Minnesota any differently, right? They've flouted environmental regulations, child labor regulations, and that's in places that have laws against those things, and they still do it. And so the bad actor bill would simply ban any company from getting a permit to do this type of mining that has a history of environmental pollution, bribery, or child labor standards around the world. So can you talk about, Jen, why is that such an important bill, and why do we really need to address that issue?
Yeah, I'm excited about offering this bill this session, this bad actor bill, because this is another one of those pieces of the discussion that is happening in northeastern Minnesota. We've heard this sort of erroneous argument, and I find it actually quite offensive, this argument, the more I've thought about it. This argument that it would be better somehow to destroy our watersheds in northeastern Minnesota, and that somehow that would address exploitation of using child labor in other places in the world. That somehow, if we allow companies like that to come into northeastern Minnesota and destroy our watersheds, that somehow they will stop doing the bad actions that they are doing in other places in the world. It's really an erroneous argument. It doesn't make any sense at all to reward companies like that. But what we actually want to do is to make sure that companies like that are not rewarded by being given business in our communities and by being able to set up shop. This is one thing also that former Governor Arne Carlson has spoken really beautifully about, is just what a terrible actor Glencore is, and how it shouldn't really even be on the table that we would be considering doing business and allowing Glencore to set up shop in our watershed. It's quite scary. And so this bill is almost like a background check, basically. It sort of sets up a background check system. That if a company wants to come in and set up a mine like this, that there's some standards that we have for companies that would want to do business, especially business that would have potentially this intense impact on our watersheds and our environment. So we would want to make sure that they haven't been involved in things like child labor and things like bribery, corruption scandals, violation of environmental laws. And we would say, no thanks. We don't want that kind of thing here in northern Minnesota. And I think it's really great. I think it's a good thing to move forward with.
Absolutely. And just, for those who don't know, you can literally Google pages and pages of these companies' bad actions. Glencore specifically was founded by Mark Rich. So if people were, around and paying attention to politics in the 1990s, you might remember Bill Clinton, infamously, I should say, pardon him. He was an executive that was trading with, apartheid South Africa, Ayatollah of Iran. And really that DNA has just continued to this day. They're under investigation for bribery and I think at least 3 countries. And I think you really mentioned it, Senator McEwen, but one thing I just want to stress so much is we hear this terribly disingenuous argument, frankly, when we hear, well, we need to do this type of mining here to stop child labor elsewhere. Which if you think about, just simple economics, what is opening one mine here? How is that going to stop a company from opening another mine? But what they often leave out, right, is that Glencore is the company that owns the mines that's employing the children in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so it's like, we're going to stop child labor by rewarding a child employing company with a polluting mine here. It just really doesn't check out. And so this is really trying to
and it's really offensive. Because it is a really serious human rights violation of these children in another part of the world who are being exploited. So for this company to come to northeastern Minnesota to divide our communities, to threaten our clean water, to threaten our economies, and to use that really serious, legitimate issue as somehow they're all of a sudden jumping on that bandwagon, when in fact, what they're proposing would make it worse for those kids. It's really horrible. I mean, it's just really, really, it's bad.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think we're all in agreement on that one. And I think that actually kind of brings us into our last bill that we wanted to talk about today, which is something that we're calling the Taxpayer Protection Act. And this is a bill that really aims to get to some of the liabilities that Minnesota is facing. So for those who don't know, specifically, part of the reason we're talking about PolyMet so much is because that is much farther along in the process. That was fully permitted in 2018 until, a number of organizations, including ourselves, MCEA, Sierra Club, Water Legacy, and then of course the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Spirit Chippewa have, combined various combinations of those groups have combined for multiple lawsuits to actually reverse up to 4 permits. So that's really excellent. And so that's what we're talking about. Unfortunately, one of the other problems with PolyMet is that, as we mentioned, they're owned over 70% by Glencore, but Glencore is not named on any of the PolyMet permits. And so the problem with that is PolyMet is simply a shell corporation. So say that they mine this mine, say that they were able to open the mine and they can operate for 10 years, they make most of the profit, and then they can simply declare bankruptcy and Glencore is not on the hook. Now, PolyMet has little to no assets. So who's going to have to pay for any cleanup? Who's going to watch out for this mine, which even the Minnesota Supreme Court agrees, PolyMet said they have to treat this water for 200 years. That's PolyMet saying that. So who's going to be responsible for that? Well, the answer is the taxpayers. And unfortunately, when we saw a dam collapse in Brazil, that was a $7 billion settlement to clean that up. And so really the problem with, so what this bill would do is require any company that's looking to, again, build one of these mines to put up a full financial assurance package, which is the amount that it would take to cover a cleanup upfront and in cash. Because unfortunately, we have a whole nother webinar just on this topic, but if you look at the financial assurance agreements, they're woefully inadequate. So maybe Jen, you can talk a little bit about, this is a bill that was introduced by Senator Ann Johnson Stewart, and Jen is one of the other lead authors on. So maybe Jen, you can talk about why you wanted to sign up for that bill.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, so my colleague Ann Johnson Stewart, Senator Ann Johnson Stewart, is just a fantastic person and wonderful colleague. And in talking about PolyMet and these threats to our watersheds in northeastern Minnesota, this is one of the key things that, in talking with her, really zoned in on early on last session, was just this idea of, everybody realizes, right, that these corporations wouldn't be pursuing this if they couldn't just totally shift the costs onto us, onto the taxpayers in Minnesota, onto the communities in northeastern Minnesota. They want all the profit, all the gain, and then they're shifting all the costs and all the negatives onto us. That's the only reason really it's profitable to do something like this. So we talked about this, and Ann was really interested, especially in offering a bill that goes directly to this point, which is to protect the taxpayers of Minnesota. So to require what actually, I think there is some misunderstanding. A lot of Minnesotans, I think, just assume, because of common sense, that we already have a law that would do this, that would provide and require that a corporation coming in with an idea like this actually front guarantees that they're going to pay for the eventual cleanup that would be needed, the attempted cleanup that would be needed, and the remediation that would be needed to clean up after their mess, so that we wouldn't be stuck with the bill. So just really strengthening that whole system, or I believe they have to put up like a cash bond or like guarantees, financial guarantees that they actually, the money does exist to actually take care of this, or insurance certificate to cover the eventual environmental destruction that they're causing.
Yes,
it's really smart.
Absolutely. Just a couple notes here. Representative Kelly Morrison is the lead author of that bill, as well as a few of these other bills in the House. She got tied up and was not able to join us today. She sends her regards, but she is, we can assure you, she is dedicated as anyone to protecting our clean water. The one thing that I would like to make sure we touch on before we take off here is, some people are asking, well, what can I do? That's the right question to be asking. So there's a couple of things that you can do. First and foremost, with the Prove It First law, I do want to say one of the other things that's so important about this law, right, is that even if Twin Metals Twin Metals, this goes through and, we win the lawsuits and Twin Metals is dead, there's still going to be other mines being proposed. There's another one called Talon right now that's proposed in the Mississippi River and St. Croix River watershed. There's going to continue to be more. And so that's why we love Prove It First, because it's all of Minnesota's watersheds and it would protect all of Minnesota's water from this threat of this mining. So that's one thing that's really important. So advocate for Prove It First. Some people are saying, okay, well, and this is a common thing that I think a lot of us feel on many issues, right? If say that you're someone who believes in the environment and you have a DFL representative who is, and you don't have a Republican representative to convince, right? What do you do? There's a number of things that you can do. Like I said, unfortunately, not all of DFL leadership is on board with this. I think there's a lot of legacy thinking, that somehow, PolyMet is going to be okay. And so really contacting your legislators. If your legislator is on board, great. Thank them for being on board, make sure they feel good about it. Also you can reach out to leadership, reach out to Representative Melissa Hortman, Representative Ryan Winkler, Governor Tim Walz, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. All of them, we'd love to see them come out and support. None of them have taken a public position on this issue, and we'd love to see that happen. So that's something that you can do. And then last but not least, maybe I'll turn it over to Maya, because there's something, you can be a Prove It First delegate, and that would be greatly helpful for us.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So one of the kind of most exciting things that we're working on this winter, and one of the ways to most directly be involved in supporting Prove It First, is to be a delegate at your local precinct convention or at your precinct caucus. So those will be coming up actually next week on February 1st. So across the state, different local precincts will be getting together to caucus. A lot of them will be doing virtual options this year, although some will be in person. And we do have a lot of information about that on the website, but basically this is really a chance for us to show, party leadership that this is something that people care about. This is something that we want to prioritize. And it's one of the rare occasions where you can really truly stand up and kind of connect with others who feel the same and help our Prove It First law kind of make it up through the steps. We've had some, leadership, definitely in both parties, that has not been super supportive, including Democratic leadership in the House and Senate. And so this is one opportunity, if you're caucusing with the DFL, to really make a difference in that camp. So I will add some links and stuff in a second here, but would really encourage anyone who's interested to learn more about that and to join. It is way easier than it often is because a lot of things are virtual. So in some cases, it just means, signing up or, doing a link or filling out a piece of paper. So it's pretty easy to get involved like that. We are having 2 trainings coming up tomorrow at noon and 7 p.m. on Zoom, and another training Monday at noon that I will also put some information in the chat about, and that's just to help you make sure you know everything you need to know about the process to make sure your voice is heard. So yeah, there's so many ways to get involved. I'll just add one more plug. Scott mentioned that we are having a Prove It First sign pickup day at the office today. So we'll be here at our St. Paul office until 6 p.m. if anyone wants to swing by and get a Prove It First sign or t-shirt. And then finally, I know a lot of this focus on what you can do is kind of aimed at Minnesotans, especially folks in the Twin Cities or in the Arrowhead. But we do have need for folks across the country to help us out with this. So send me an email. You can join our Citizen Action Network. And that's a group of folks that really gets updates about, weekly or bi-weekly or something like that, the most important things the most important actions to take on all of these topics. So thank you everybody for joining. I see that we're at 1 o'clock here. Scott, it looks like you maybe had some finishing thoughts to say. So
I have some finishing thoughts, Maya. Yes, absolutely. Just wanted to say, I'll turn it over to Chris and Jen too to say, whatever they want to say their finished thoughts. I just want to say, so glad that we had this participation. I know we weren't able to get to all the questions, so please email us. We are happy to answer any individual question that you might have. I'll put my email in the chat. You can email us at any time. And yes, absolutely, we're happy to answer any questions. So please let us know about that. And really, thank you so much for everybody for being here. We're really, really honored to do this work, and we couldn't do it without all of you. So, anything that you want to add there, Senator McEwen?
Yeah, just real quick, and then Chris can have the last word. Just real quick regarding the caucuses. Yes, please caucus. And I want to put a plug out to any of you who are sort of holding on and still with the Republican Party. Because we don't have any Republican co-authors right now. And I would really, really like to have them, because this should be a bipartisan issue. And I know that we're dealing with a very, very partisan environment right now, but I believe there's got to be some of you out there who still have connections with the Republican Party, or have friends and family who are very tied in with the Republican Party, who are conservationists, who want to protect our water, who want to protect our communities, and would support legislation like this. If you do, go to the Republican Party caucuses, caucus on this, start building power within the Republican Party also, because we need that. And then I just real quick, just wanted to put also a plug in for positive, sustainable economic development in northeastern Minnesota. Do what you can to make that call really resonate, because this is the way that our communities can be divided, is by creating this sense that we have this scarce resources environment where we have to fight each other to just have our basic needs met and be able to provide for our families, when in fact we don't, right? So we can have positive, healthy, sustainable economic development in our entire state and in northeastern Minnesota, and we do not have to sacrifice our watersheds for scraps. We do not need to do that. So in as much as you can, please help with those efforts as well. And thanks very much, everyone. Great comments and questions in the chat too. Sorry we didn't get to all of it.
Great, right. Thank you, Senator McEwen. And I want to conclude by picking up first on that theme you just brought up, that loving the boundary waters and Lake Superior is a bipartisan love, that the Republicans, independents, and Democrats all love the Lake Superior, all love the boundary waters. Unfortunately, Republican elected officials have not come on board with the need for protecting Lake Superior and for protecting the boundary waters, and they really should. The public is for this. Republicans, independents, and Democrats all across Minnesota and all across the country support protecting clean water. So, just as former Governor Arnie Carlson is a Republican, there are many Republicans out there that love the environment, enjoy the environment, and should be part of this. This should be a bipartisan effort. And a final comment here that's just raised in the chat here. Yes, the needs of the tribes have not been met, and both of the lawsuit involving the wastewater permit, the Fond du Lac band's rights weren't considered, and this issue for protecting the boundary waters is within the 1854 Treaty Authority area, and so we need to recognize and respect ongoing tribal rights. And then, finally, this is a day for celebrating and loving the boundary waters. So get your guidebooks out there. I have Dan Pauly's guidebook here. I have Bob Beamer's guidebook here. Make sure you get. I've got my permits now, and get your permits. Today is permit day, so plan with. This is a way for where people connect with each other. So this is not just connecting with nature, but also connecting with family and friends. So plan those activities that bring you closer to people you love and maybe people you don't know as well, and you get to know them better on your summer trips. So I want to finally conclude by thanking all of you for being part of this effort. This is a collective effort, and we are humbled by the support that we get from all of you, as well as the support from leaders such as Jen McEwen. So I also want to thank my team here, the staff, Maya and Scott, and everyone else that isn't on the screen right now. It's a truly a team effort. So thanks for our team here on the staff at Friends of the Boundary Waters Wilderness as well. So have a great afternoon. Thank you, and get your permits if you haven't gotten them. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.